Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Cobern, and today's episode we're doing another listener request from Moron. He says, "Can you do a video on DeForest Buckner? Thanks." And yes, we can do a video on DeForest Buckner. Of course, he is the defensive tackle / defensive end from the San Francisco 49ers, was drafted in the not this draft, but the last draft. And he was a guy was pretty high on coming out. He had a lot of positives in terms of his data, and I think we'll highlight some of those positives. So for those that aren't familiar with my work, I'm putting into the description the sort of terms and what the definitions for those terms are. So if you're not sure what explosive lower body strength score is, or you don't really know what defensive market share production is, or you're just not very familiar with the terms that I'm using, just go to the description. The definition is there. If you still don't know, you can watch some of my previous videos where I explain a lot of this stuff further. But I do know that there have been some people that are like, why do you always, you go over everything and then you get in, I'm just trying to make sure that people understand what I'm talking about, so there's not a lot of confusion. Not a lot of people that don't understand what I'm talking about, because my biggest goal is to get you guys to understand data, understand analytics. So I'm not trying to present you a bunch of stuff and say, oh, this player's going to be good because of this, and then you have no idea. Like I'm trying to get you guys to at the very least have sort of a working knowledge about what these terms mean and what they and what kind of impact they can have. So all that stuff will be in the description. So getting into DeForest Buckner's profile, starting with his college production, this is what he looked like coming out of college in terms of his production data. He had a 97.45 solo tackle market share score, and based on my data, all the All-Pro defensive tackles since the 1989 NFL draft class hit at least that threshold when it comes to solo tackle market share. So they hit 87.19. And Pro Bowlers hit 72.31. So DeForest Buckner, based on his data, hit all the sort of thresholds you're looking for when it comes to All-Pro and Pro Bowl ability based on his solo tackle market share score. He also hit the sack market share score of 94.79 out of 100, which surpasses the sack market share score for All-Pro and Pro Bowl players, on top of the TFL market share score of 94.90 for Buckner, which also hits and surpasses all the sort of thresholds for All-Pro and Pro Bowl players. Solo tackle market share is by far the bigger thing to pay attention to here. No matter what type of defensive attacker you're talking about, as you can see, the higher thresholds for All-Pro and Pro Bowl players is with the All-Pro and Pro Bowl area. So you want guys who hit really good solo tackle market share scores when you're looking for a defensive tackle. And sack and TFL scores can often speak to the scheme that they're in, because a lot of times players, people give me this complaint all the time about defensive tackle data where they go, well, he was a nose tackle, or he was this, or he's that. But even great nose tackles may not have great sack market share. Because nose tackles, and they'll often, cite, well, nose tackles don't sack, and nose tackles don't get to, I don't really care about that. I mean, I'm acknowledging this fact. The thresholds are the way the thresholds are. And nose tackles are nose tackles, but even the great nose tackles, the Vince Wilforks, the Haloti Ngatas, all the sort of great nose tackles you can think of since 1989 at least, they were really good in terms of solo tackle market share. They may not have been great in terms of sack market share. They may not have been amazing when it comes to tackle for loss market share, but they all were great when it comes to solo tackle market share. Even Snacks Harrison was great in terms of solo tackle market share coming out of college. Because that's another guy that gets brought up a lot. Well, Snacks Harrison, he's just a nose tackle, just takes up space. That's all he does. No, to be a great nose tackle, you need to be productive. You may not be productive in the ways that people put the most attention to, which is sacks and tackles for loss. But you do need to be productive when it comes to your solo tackle market share. You do need to be productive when it comes to those specific sort of thresholds, because it talks about the relentlessness of you. It talks about how much you're on the football field, and lots of stuff like that when it comes to defensive tackles. But the bottom line is DeForest Buckner hit every single sort of production threshold you could think of coming out of college. When it comes to his athleticism data, this is where he ran into a couple of issues. Issues specifically to his athleticism, where he had a 56.0 8'1", explosive lower body strength score, a 29.11 speed score, and a 48.45 flexibility score. Based on my data, again, to the 1999 NFL draft class, if Buckner pretty much hits the Pro Bowl explosion score, the Pro Bowl flexibility score, but he doesn't hit the Pro Bowl speed score. And there's never been a multiple Pro Bowl defensive tackle who did not hit a 42.03 speed score. And I mean, and when I say never, I mean never. There's never been a case of a multiple Pro Bowl defensive tackle or a multiple All-Pro defensive tackle even who did not hit at least in that range of a speed score. So that is the only drawback to DeForest Buckner's athleticism. He has good explosiveness. He has good flexibility, at least when it comes to the bottom end thresholds for flexibility. But he is by no means an amazing athlete or has all the athletic tools to be a consistently dominant Pro Bowl caliber player. He just doesn't quite have those tools. He does hit the starter threshold, though. And actually, if you look at the starter threshold, the starter threshold in terms of bottom end is like 4.64 in terms of explosiveness, 11.42 in terms of speed, and 11.13 in terms of flexibility. So he hits all those thresholds. So he's a very safe prospect. And I know safe is a very term, but coming out he was very safe because high-end production with not amazing athleticism, but you can't lose a lot with a player like this. You're not going to get a guy who's amazing, but you are going to get a guy that's going to give you a couple top-notch years. You're going to get a guy that's going to be consistent week in and week out, and I think that's the best sort of thing you can expect with DeForest Buckner in the future based on his athleticism data. And when you actually get to his NFL season as a rookie, he actually was pretty decent. He had a 98.78 solo tackle mark share score, 97.50 sack score, and a 61.50 pass deflection score, giving him a total impact score of 93.84 out of 100, which is essentially like top 10 to top 15 defensive tackle play when it comes to the 49ers. So he had a very good rookie season. In many ways, his solo tackle mark share coming out of Oregon translated to the NFL. So he was able to kind of take his production from that level and translate it to SF. The only thing I would say or give pause to is the fact that the San Francisco 49ers were a very terrible football team. I don't think anybody can disagree with that when you win as many games as they did, which was very few. That maybe the fact that he was on a team that was very poor in terms of defense, that he was able to get a lot more opportunities to make plays. I mean, that's definitely a possibility. But I do think that there is positive things in terms of his rookie profile so far. The only concern with him, though, is the fact that the San Francisco 49ers are shifting from a 3-4 defense to a 4-3 defense. He's basically going from a 5-tech in a 3-4 to a actual wide defensive end. And I think people really underrate the differences in responsibilities, the differences in terms of how to be really successful. So essentially, this is a guy that his athleticism traits are much more of a mismatch inside than they are outside when it comes to defensive players. Because typically offensive guards and centers are less athletic than offensive tackles. So if he ends up going up against a actual offensive tackle, he may not have the athletic gifts to really push forward in terms of his profile because of that. So I really worry about that. I'm not quite sure what they're doing with him, if they're moving him to DN, if they're keeping him a defensive tackle. I'm really not sure. I know some of you guys may comment in the comment section about that, but I would be very worried if they just stuck him at defensive end, because he doesn't quite have the athleticism gifts to be a tremendously dynamic player. Like, it would make him less effective to put him on the outside versus the inside of the defensive line. So I hope that's not what they do. I hope they keep him inside a defensive tackle. But if they don't, I think that would spell somewhat of concern in the future with him because of that sort of issue. So I hope that's not the case, but that's the only sort of concern with him in the future, is if they move him to D end in a 4-3, he probably won't translate as well as staying at defensive tackle, because he mainly played inside in college and was really productive. He's proven to be really productive in the NFL inside, and moving him outside, I don't think there's anything to gain by doing that. I don't think that that's a good thing if you do that. So I hope that's not the case. I hope he stays inside, and if he does, I think there's a lot of potential with him, especially with a guy like Solomon Thomas. Buckner could be a guy. Buckner could be a guy where Solomon Thomas kind of works off him a lot and makes that defensive line presence even better. But I don't think it's going to be as good if you just put both these guys on the outside. I think it's better to keep them inside and have them work with each other than to just have them as polar opposites on the defensive line. So again, my name is James Cobern. You can find my work at draftcoburn.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Geometrics. And if you like this content and you want more content like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Share this video as well with anybody that you know, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.